Number 9. Turtle saving teen versus crocodile. A young man named Corey Somerville was fishing on a pier in Queensland, Australia in 2019 when he noticed something strange floating in the distance. When it got closer, he realized it was a turtle struggling to stay belly up in the water. Just moments after Corey jumped in to help the creature and turned it right side up, a huge crocodile appeared and snatched the turtle out of the teenager's hands. It then ate half of it before swimming off. Corey told local news station 7 News that he was terrified, especially when he realized the crocodile would have gotten him if it had missed its first target. He remembered hearing a large crunch as the hungry reptile clamped its powerful jaws down on its prey. After reaching safety, he turned the uneaten half of the turtle's body over to authorities, who closed the beach off to swimmers. After getting more reports of crocodile sightings and determining that it was likely the same animal Corey had encountered, wildlife officials set a trap. A spokesperson said the creature was probably around 10 feet, 3 meters long. Number 8. Alligator interrupts nighttime swim. On a hot summer night in 2018, a 24-year-old homeless woman named Felicity Gillette decided to cool off and take a swim in Florida's Lake Hernando. While in the water, a 5 to 6 foot long, 1.5 to 1.8 meters long alligator suddenly bit her arm and tried dragging her down. Felicity managed to fight the beast off and called 911 in a panic. The dispatcher told her how to stop the bleeding from her arm while she waited for help to arrive. Luckily, her wounds were not life-threatening. Later that day, a local news reporter named Ryan Smith tweeted some footage of an alligator's head poking out of the lake. The video was a few weeks old, but it was believed to be the same creature from the woman's attack. Smith said that authorities suspected the alligator was being well fed, which was keeping it in the area and putting locals in danger. A Fish and Wildlife Commission spokesperson told People magazine that a trapper caught 2 alligators the next day, one measuring 7 feet long, 2.1 meters, and the other 8 feet, 2.7 meters. Hopefully, with these creatures in custody, no one else will be targeted. Number 7. A stealthy approach. While driving downtown in Mobile, Alabama one day in 2021, Kenesha Miller and Anthony Patterson saw something so shocking that it caused them to slam on their brakes. They watched as an alligator quickly snuck out of a storm drain and toward an apartment building. The couple called police and kept an eye on the creature, while a school bus dropped some kids off just 50 feet, 15.2 meters away. In the meantime, a crowd of curious onlookers gathered nearby to catch a glimpse. Wildlife officials safely removed the gator from the scene and took it back into the wild. The incident came shortly after a toddler spotted what he thought was a turtle on a sewer grate outside a restaurant in Jacksonville, Florida. His father, Joe Brenner, was surprised to see a 6-foot-long, 1.8 meters alligator. He snapped a few photos and posted them online, sparking discussions about how it's not as uncommon as people think for the reptiles to show up in populated places, extremely close to humans. Expert Frank Mazzotti told Newsweek that while alligators are certainly capable of hurting people, it's very uncommon. He added that there are countless people living in places where millions of alligators are also found. Number 6. Gold prospector versus grizzly. In 2021, an elderly gold prospector from Nome, Alaska named Richard Jesse told a troubling story about being attacked out of nowhere by a grizzly bear and then stalked for days on end afterward. He told the Home Nugget the bear suddenly appeared and knocked his ATV over like a toy car, sending it into a water hole. His cell phone also got waterlogged, leaving him unable to call for help in the wake of the attack. Jesse fired a shot at the bear with his revolver and fled into his nearby cabin, where he claimed he was stuck for 4 days while the bear banged on his doors, windows, and walls. He managed to get out long enough to place an SOS sign on his roof, and when he heard a Coast Guard helicopter nearby, he ran outside and waved his hands around for help. Chief of Nome Emergency Services James West Jr. told the Daily Mail that Jesse's injuries were fairly minor. His knee was bruised and he may have broken a few ribs, but there were no bite or deep claw marks on his body. While Jesse considered himself lucky, locals questioned his story based on a lack of evidence. They found his ATV outside his cabin with a meat-packed cooler on top of it, making them wonder why the food was untouched if a hungry bear had been in the area. People also wondered why there were no claw marks or visible signs of a bear's presence on the ATV and property. The ground was muddy from recent rain, making it hard to believe the grizzly would have passed through without leaving distinct footprints. Skeptics began to believe Jesse had gotten his ATV stuck in the water and made up the story about the bear attack because he was embarrassed to simply admit the truth. Based on the evidence, experts were hesitant to rule out the possibility of an attack, but they admitted it was possible that it didn't happen at all. Jesse dismissed these claims and stuck to his story, adding that he was traumatized and would no longer go out into the wilderness by himself. Number 5. Sudden snake attack. On what seemed to be another ordinary day in the Byron Bay area of New South Wales, Australia, a 5-year-old boy went outside to play and nearly lost his life in 2022. Bo Blake was walking next to his family's backyard pool when a 10-foot-long, 3 meters carpet python slid out from under a nearby bush and quickly yanked him into the water. The little boy's father, Ben Blake, witnessed the sudden ambush. He told local radio station 3AW that in an instant the snake was wrapped around Bo's leg and pulling him to the bottom of the pool. Bo's grandfather, 76-year-old Alan Blake, quickly jumped into the water and pulled his grandson out, with the snake still latched onto his leg. Ben choked the python until it finally let go of Bo. He said Bo handled the incident well after being told the snake wasn't poisonous and he wasn't going to die. The youngster got treatment for puncture wounds from the python's fangs and was kept home from school to monitor for any signs of infection, but was otherwise okay. Bo described his savior as an absolute trooper for his bravery. Over the 35 years Alan Blake had lived on the property, he had only seen about 10 snakes in the yard. Australia is notorious for dangerous wildlife, and while Ben may have come close to losing his son, he understands that crossing paths with deadly predators is a possibility that can't be avoided. Summing up his thoughts on the matter, he simply stated, "Look, it's where we live. It's Australia." Number 4. Owl strikes twice. 30-year-old Kirsten Matheson was used to seeing an owl taking up residence on her wooded property in northern Kitsap County, Washington. She would later tell Newsweek that she had no problems with the bird and had even taken photos of it when it suddenly turned on her in 2022. Matheson was walking down her driveway in the dark when the owl swooped down toward her, landing in a nearby tree. It then took another pass at her and struck her in the head, knocking her to her hands and knees, leaving several bleeding puncture wounds in her scalp. After getting a tetanus shot and having her injuries checked for signs of infection, Matheson started wearing a hat outside and avoiding the part of her yard where the attack happened. But giving the owl some space apparently wasn't enough to stop it from striking once again just a week later. For the second time, the creature struck her in the back of the head. Just like the first incident, she didn't hear the silent bird approaching her from behind. This time, the owl was more aggressive, leaving Matheson with several deep cuts. She got a close enough look at the bird, though, to know that it was the same one from before. Bird expert Tom Stewart told Newsweek that the offending creature was a notoriously territorial species called the barred owl. He said that Matheson probably went too close to its nest without even realizing it, causing the owl to view her as a threat and react accordingly. Stewart suspected the owl had young offspring, which would cause it to act more aggressive than usual, and said that the bird's behavior would likely calm down after its young left the nest. Because owls are federally protected, it was illegal to interfere with the nest, leaving Matheson with no choice but to wait and hope things got better. She said she continued maintaining her distance and even started using an umbrella to shield her head every time she went outside. Number 3. College wrestlers tag team Grizzly. Four college wrestlers were looking for antlers in Wyoming's Shoshone National Forest in 2022 when they had an unexpected encounter with a furious grizzly bear. It emerged from the trees without warning and attacked a young Braden Lowry. Lowry later told ABC News that he didn't know the bear was coming until it was suddenly right in front of him, giving him no opportunity to run or use the bear spray he had. In his words, he knew he was facing a life-or-death fight and had to do what he could to protect his head. His teammate Kendall Cummings grabbed, punched, and yelled at the bear to get it to stop attacking his friend. It worked, but the bear then turned its attention toward Cummings, pinning him to the ground and against a tree. The terrifying beast briefly walked away, but soon turned around and attacked again. Thankfully, Lowry and Cummings were able to escape and find their other teammates, August Harrison and Orrin Jackson. Lowry was treated for a compound arm fracture and Cummings got 60 staples in his head, but they were both expected to fully recover. In an ABC interview after the incident, the four athletes expressed gratitude for each other and for living through the ordeal, describing their survival as a miracle. Number 2. Barracuda battles. Barracudas have a fearsome reputation. They're known for their large size, which can extend past 5 feet, 1.5 meters in length, and over 100 pounds, 45 kilograms. The species is also equipped with 2 rows of razor-sharp teeth and the ability to swim at 35 miles an hour, 56.3 kilometers per hour. But barracudas rarely attack humans, and fatalities are rare, so it was shocking when 2 victims were injured in just 2 days in 1993. The first attack happened in the Florida Keys when a large barracuda jumped out of the water and bit a woman while she stood on a houseboat. The next day, a barracuda sunk its teeth into a tourist from Alabama named Bobby Martin during a fishing trip in the Gulf of Mexico. Martin and his friends were enjoying their afternoon when the fish came flying out of the water and onto their boat. Captain Phil Shields told the Tampa Bay Times that the barracuda flew over his head and landed on Martin with its mouth open. It knocked the construction worker out of his chair and tore a large gash into his arm. By the time everyone on the boat figured out what was happening, there was blood everywhere and the barracuda was thrashing around wildly, knocking things over while everyone scrambled to get out of its way. Martin received 24 stitches and was expected to make a full recovery. It was extremely strange to have 2 barracuda attacks happen in 1 week, according to marine biologist George Burgess, who told the Times that Florida experiences about 1 attack per year on average. For the unlucky few who experience these rare encounters, the injuries are usually severe. It's even possible for a barracuda to take an entire hand, according to Burgess. Looking at it from that perspective, it makes Martin's 24 stitches seem minor compared to what the outcome could have been. Number 1. Giant predator lies in wait. When fisherman Matthew Gorn saw a great white lurking just below the water's surface near his kayak in southern Australia's Spencer Gulf Inlet, he took his oar out of the water and remained as still as possible, hoping the predator would go away. Instead, the shark leapt out of the waves and tried snatching Gorn's oar. Viral GoPro footage captured the moment the gigantic creature chomped its teeth on the paddle. In the video, Gorn shouts an expletive before frantically trying to paddle to safety. He estimated that the shark was about 10 feet, 3 meters long. Gorn told the Australian Advertiser that he knew he was stupid for going into the water without a shark shield and said he was meaning to buy one. Shark shields are electromagnetic devices used to deter attacks. They're popular among snorkelers, surfers, spearfishers, and other people who spend time in shark habitats, and are known for being highly effective. Just weeks before, a spearfisher almost lost his arm in a sudden bull shark attack off Port Hedland in Western Australia. 38-year-old Robbie Peck was carrying a fish he had just caught to his boat, where his brother-in-law and son were waiting for him, when a bull shark lunged out of the water and bit his arm. They were miles offshore and at least a half hour away from the nearest help. Peck held his severed arm together with his wetsuit and a makeshift tourniquet and was rushed to the hospital as soon as they could reach land. Doctors saved the limb, but said he'll require much more surgery and rehabilitation time to recover. Thanks for watching. Would you rather wake up to find a 6-foot-long, 1.8-meter snake in your bedroom, or get pooped on by a bird at a picnic? Let me know in the comments below.